I'm redoing the video on the Banks iDASH gauge. This is the super gauge, it's not the data logging gauge. This will record some data, but it's your minimum and maximum is what it retains. So I'm going to go over to the minimum max log, and like for the engine coolant temperature, the maximum temp is 201 degrees Fahrenheit. The minimum temp that it's recorded is 81 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty much the limit as to what it can track. You know, there's your air-fuel ratio, obviously minimum 0, maximum 18.1. Air-fuel ratio commanded had a maximum of 20.5, and again a minimum of 0. That would more likely be when you're completely off the gas or at startup. So that has minimum capability of logging data, but it's only minimum and max data that it records, and that's your minimum max log. The gauge layout, it will show up just one gauge, but if you go into gauge layout, it's going to give you a choice of 2 through 8. If you scroll down to pedal monster, if you have a pedal monster installed, which I do, if I select that, the only thing it shows up is the pedal monster. Now if you want to display the pedal monster and a combo of gauges, it'll show up to 3 other gauges with the pedal monster. Here you have the pedal monster on the side, then you have 3 parameters that you can monitor. You can change these 3 parameters over here. The pedal monster, you can change the sensitivity of it by pushing the down arrow or the up arrow. Now that one's on 10 for city right now, so it's a maximum amount that will enhance. Let's see here. Let's go on over to more gauge layout. Now, like if I have the 8 gauge layout, this is what I selected for it. I have the engine coolant temperature, ambient air temperature, the CFMs running through the engine. That's what the engine is actually using CFM wise, cubic feet per minute. It is inhaling, and that's all 4 cylinders. So that's what the engine itself is, not what's coming through the intake, but what the engine, I guess each cylinder. That would be my understanding of that. I may not be 100% correct on that. Again, Banks needs to have a glossary of what all these things mean and what they do. And I'm sure somewhere they probably do, but they don't make it easy to find. So I'm going to contact Banks and see if I can get one, because that's really important to me to be able to understand all these abbreviations and what each one does. I have the the air-fuel ratio is at 14.7, and that's what it's actually doing. If you go down to the next line, the 3rd line on the left side, that's your air-fuel ratio command, what the system is wanting. That's what it's sending out that it wants. And then the one above it on the 3rd line on the right, that's what's actually occurring. Then you have your ambient air density. You know, that's reading this in pounds, 61.4. And your horsepower through ECU and your torque through ECU are on the bottom. And of course those change as you're driving down the road. They'll read much higher when you're accelerating the vehicle. But this gauge is really a nice gauge. It's you can do up to 5 different pages of data, and you can scroll through each page. You would scroll through each page if you had them set up using this button here, pushing it, it will go to another page, and you can have up to 5 of them. So that's a lot of data that you can track with this. It's a pretty cool gauge. Come in handy if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about how your vehicle operates. I highly recommend this gauge. I think it will enhance your knowledge of your own vehicle, what it's doing. I have one of these in my Mustang as well. And of course the Mustang, the Ford, is turbocharged engine in it, so it has different parameters set up. But anybody looking for a good gauge, the Banks iDASH Super Gauge is excellent. If you want to record data, then you can buy the Data Monster gauge, and that will actually record the data as it goes. These gauges are on the expensive side, but for what you get for the money, I think they're worth every dime. These will also allow you to, let me go into it here and scroll down to it. You can also do diagnostics. Of course, when you're doing diagnostics, the engine shouldn't be running. You can delete codes. It'll read codes. You can delete the codes after you've made whatever repair is needed. Now, whether this will delete a hard code or not, I don't know, because this vehicle has no codes in it. But a lot of code readers will not delete a hard code. And there's a couple ways to do that. One, you go to the dealer, or you buy a $5,000 scan tool, or you can use a 1 ohm 10 watt resistor and take off both battery cables, and you can hook up one side of the resistor to each cable and hold it there for about 10 to 15 minutes. That will drain out all the power from your ECU, and that will clear hard codes that normally only the dealer can clear. So that's one way that you can clear them on your own, and it doesn't cost you much. So hope you find this information interesting. I highly recommend these iDASH gauges from Banks. They're pretty cool with the info that they give you, and you can actually learn a lot about your own vehicle.